have a lot of nostalgic memories about our childhood. Maybe it's the quirky fashion, the simple lifestyle, the manual drive cars, the places we've gone, or the things that people did for fun. Today we'll look at things from the past that many may have forgotten, and you might be old if you remember any of these things.
You didn't have fresh milk delivered every morning.
Well, I don't know what you're laughing at. Auntie Ethel's coming to
Remember the clinking sound of glass bottles outside of your door? The evolution of convenient home delivery began with the milkman. Milk delivery delivered fresh milk to your doorstep every day, and the unsung hero, the milkman, always showed up with a smile and rich, creamy goodness. This tradition dates back to the 1700s when local dairy farmers were located close to each and every neighborhood. Customers could order and deliveries would be made daily. The milk was left on the front porch or placed inside of a box built into the front door of every home to prevent stealing. The business of milk delivery took a hit when commercial stores and refrigeration became popular. One of the selling points of the delivery system was customers could get fresh milk daily because there was no means to preserve it at the time. The design of the refrigerator and the uprising of grocery stores came at the end of the milk delivery era. Some places in the United States are keen on bringing back this nostalgic system that everyone once knew and loved.
A party line! It's the exciting way to meet people from all over the country.
How about party line telephones? They were common in the mid-20th century, especially in rural areas and places with a less dense population. They were mostly used because the installation of individual lines was expensive and impractical. Party lines were a cheaper option and now a nostalgic memory. These lines shared telephone services, and many households would use the same line to make and receive a call. Several homes were connected to the same line, and anyone on could pick up the receiver and listen to another person's conversation. There was no privacy, as you never knew who else would be listening from their homes when you were on a call. It also meant that only one home could use the phone at a time. It became problematic for urgent calls, as you had to wait for your neighbor to get off the phone before you could use it. Each household had its separate ringtones, so it was easy to tell which had an incoming call. If you've ever been to a sock hop, you've probably seen it all. Vinyl records, the Great Depression, and World War II, sock hop was a regular social dancing event for teens and young adults that became popular in the mid-20th century. Sock hop fever began in 1944 and slowly became a thing with high school kids. This event was usually held in auditoriums, gyms, and cafeterias, or anywhere that had enough space. The name originated from the number one rule of the dance party, which stated that everyone had to take off their shoes. This was because floors were often made of wood and the hard soles could scratch or dent them. The music at these dances was mostly vinyl records or a live band, and in time, rock and roll became the cool music for the sock hop. And eventually, every dance was termed a sock hop. You would know there was one going on by hundreds of shoes carefully left outside of a hall. They became obsolete with the popularity of sneakers and other light footwear. Remember the excitement of pulling into the drive-in theater and restaurant, an outdoor place where cars converged for an evening of movie entertainment? You'd get your ticket at the entrance and drive through a massive parking lot with a large central screen, and cars could park side by side to enjoy whatever movie was on. Drive-ins were a popular place for families and couples to bond over a movie, with tight seating arrangements of overpopulated theaters. Drive-ins have been around since 1933 and were made popular by Richard M. Hollingshead. The drive-in theater provides a safe and comfortable experience for movie lovers who prefer a more private space to enjoy films without the hassle of cramped seats. Before watching the movie, you could grab a meal at the restaurant, which is a parking space where food vendors take your order and go from one car to the next delivering meals on roller skates. Drive-in restaurants were convenient, easy, and the perfect option for a quick bite before the movie. Drive-ins were especially popular in the 50s and 60s but began to lose their appeal for reasons like weather, gas fee hikes, and the oil crisis of the 1970s. Some drive-ins were forced to shut down, while others adapted to the needs of the customer and remained in business. Some drive-ins still operate today, providing a good dose of nostalgia with both classic and current films. Jukeboxes were the musical DJ of a generation and a major component that lit up even the gloomiest of bars when a trending song was played. Contraptions which allowed you to choose a song from a catalog, they were some of the oldest music players that were used in public. Some of them played CDs and some vinyl records, and the machine often came with buttons with either alphabets or numbers which allowed you to choose the music of your choice. Jukeboxes required you to insert a coin to be able to play your favorite song. They were popular in pubs, bars, and restaurants, providing musical entertainment to everyone who came around. They revolutionized the way music was enjoyed and peaked throughout the 40s and 50s. They began to decline as other forms of music players became popular. Cassettes and CDs came in the 80s and rendered the jukebox obsolete.
E.T. shoes from Buster Brown. E.T. shoes.
Buster Brown shoes were designer shoes for children that were constructed from the toughest leather available, making them extremely durable. Buster Brown was a character from a comic strip in 1902, and he and his dog were adopted as the official mascot of the Buster Brown shoes, with the image of the cartoon character printed on the inside. Female versions were known as Mary Janes. Buster Browns were an instant hit for their good looks, affordability, and durability. Specially designed for children's growing feet, they often became hand-me-downs because of their quality. After 137 years of operation, the shoe company rebranded and became something else, dealing in children's shoes, and as time went by, other shoe brands would overtake traditional ones. The company does still exist today, though not as popular as it once was.
Many different machines have been developed to make written communication as easy.
The Mimeograph duplicating machine worked by forcing ink into the paper through the stencil. This early duplication machine was used to make copies of printed documents in schools and businesses long before the photocopier was ever designed. The inky smell and purple color were one of the distinctive features of the tool, and it often left slight smudges on the new copies. The mimeograph was developed by Thomas Edison in 1876 and later redesigned by Albert Blake Dick, who acquired the patent in 1887. Early models required the user to turn the handle to operate it. However, later ones used electricity and could print copies faster. By the 20th century, it had been used in every business establishment and school, and began to decline in the 60s when photocopiers became accessible and affordable.
These days,
Do you remember these colorful metal lunch boxes from the 80s? The boxes were specially made for kids. Not a regular old container for packing food, it was a cultural icon that defined a particular era. They often featured images of movies, cartoons, and TV shows that were popular, as well as celebrities and lifestyles. Kids loved the artwork and would often debate on who had the coolest lunchbox. Because of the high demand, movie franchises and media took advantage of the opportunity to use them for advertising. They hit a snag when they were banned in schools in certain states, with claims that they were being used as weapons in playground fights. Although the problem was not widespread, it became a safety concern, and when parents decided to take this case up, it led to the overall ban on the metal lunchbox. They were instantly replaced with plastics, which were lighter and easier to carry and a whole lot more safe.
Starring one of us. I think you know everybody here? Sure. We'll each be starring in our own...
Very few would remember the 3D comics of the early 50s. This fascinating innovation was a unique trend in the industry that gave the illusion of a three-dimensional depth when viewed with special glasses. The very first 3D comic was Mighty Mouse in 3D and published in 1953 using anaglyph 3D techniques to create depth, which was a pleasant surprise for fans. Comic producers took advantage of the trend in various genres, and others had a 3D comic version. However, the success would be short-lived, and the high cost of production led to publishers abandoning the format. There was nothing as refreshing as a Sunday drive as a leisure activity. Sundays were spent together with family, and gas was relatively cheap, so there was no better way to spend the afternoon than to go on a ride. Couples could go on Sunday drives to relax and take in the scenic views of landscapes and cities, and it was pretty popular in the United States during the 20th century as a perfect way to unwind and familiarize yourself with the countryside or suburban landscape. After the Second World War, the automobile industry witnessed a boom and cars became more accessible to average people, and the freedom and mobility became a key part of American identity. This was before the 70s oil crisis that quickly put a halt to leisurely driving. The changes that led to its decline were economic, environmental, and social, but it remains an enjoyable activity for families and couples today. Playing with hula hoops is an activity that's been around since anyone can remember. A large ring that you could spin around parts of your body, commonly the waist, hands, neck, and legs. Hula hoops have existed since 500 BC. They're not marketed to children alone. Adults and even the elderly can participate in the art. It required skill and control to maintain and was like a dance that kept the ring in motion and suspended against the will of gravity. The Wham-O company made these hoops popular in 1958, and they came in various sizes. Kids' hoops were 70 centimeters wide, while adults were up to 100. The hoops became viral sensations in the 50s, and although they were mostly used by females, anyone could get in on the action. It required a certain level of flexibility, and today they're still quite popular and are used in preschools as a prop in the Olympic Games. Jukeboxes were the musical DJ of a generation and a major component that lit up even the gloomiest of bars when a trending song was played. Contraptions which allowed you to choose a song from a catalog, they were some of the oldest music players that were used in public. Some of them played CDs and some vinyl records, and the machine often came with buttons with either alphabets or numbers which allowed you to choose the music of your choice. Jukeboxes required you to insert a coin to be able to play your favorite song. They were popular in pubs, bars, and restaurants, providing musical entertainment to everyone who came around. They revolutionized the way music was enjoyed and peaked throughout the 40s and 50s. They began to decline as other forms of music players became popular. Cassettes and CDs came in the 80s and rendered the jukebox obsolete.
I love you, Bobby.
Radio Flyer, powered by imagination.
The Radio Flyer was a small red wagon designed for kids to use as intended while playing outside. However, the versatile toy became a staple in American homes. While its peak years were mostly from the 30s to the 60s, the Radio Flyer was an all-time children's favorite that was used to transport toys and items from one place to the next. You would see kids taking turns dragging each other around in the wagon for fun, and it played a major role in imaginative outdoor activity. Interestingly, it's been in existence since the 20s and still available in stores today. The Little Red Wagon remains a beloved memory for millions of people around the world. If you've ever earned an S&H Green Stamp, you're older than you look. These stamps were popular from the 1930s to the 70s and were rewards that shoppers earned for purchases. It was like a loyalty reward that depended on the value of what you bought. S&H was an essential part of American consumerism, especially for housewives who loved to gather the stamps and redeem them for household items. The stamps were given to retailers in grocery stores, department stores, and gas stations. Customers collected the stamps and got a booklet, and when it was full, they could use it to acquire more goods worth the value of the stamps at any center. Families would often eagerly save their stamps and get excited when each booklet became full. The rewards included appliances, toys, furniture, and a whole lot more. By the 1970s, the stamp rewards slowly declined, and then disappeared, but they remain the first large-scale loyalty marketing concept. Dime stores were one of the most affordable places to shop in the early to mid-20th century. Formerly known as the Five and Dime, it was one of the most popular stores in America, offering a variety of goods that featured anything from household items to toys and more. This was a chain of stores where everything cost usually 5 to 10 cents. Discount retailers included Ben Franklin, G.C. Murphy, Woolworths, and others that could be found in large and small towns, accessible to the middle class and the poor household. Some of them featured that nostalgic food counter, where you could get things like hot dogs, grilled cheese sandwiches, and more. This made them a popular destination for families, couples, and friends who were looking for a good time. Stores like Woolworths became recognizable and significant in American history because of the sit-ins during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Remember the time when designs, both home and fashion, became glamorous, futuristic, and sleek? America emerged from World War II, and the first man had successfully landed on the moon. Hype was widespread, and the space buzz led to the atomic age designs. David Bowie released a track about an astronaut who found himself lost in space, and the movie Diamonds Are Forever featured the ultimate space-themed man cave of the hero James Bond. Television shows like The Jetsons epitomized the atomic age, and famous architect Paul Rudolph paid homage to space fever by designing an imaginative and complex space structure. A new generation of designers was born as they sought to express artistic designs in geometric shapes, boomerang patterns, atomic symbols, and more. Materials like stainless steel, plastics, fiberglass, and ceramic played their part in the aesthetic. The fluid and gravity-defying designs, slender-shaped materials, and other futuristic ideas were dominant in the 50s and 60s. Space designs only declined in the late 70s, but experienced a strong revival recently with the development of tourism in various places of the world. Family road trips were about more than moving from point A to point B. It was a shared family experience full of adventure, memories, and excitement. Families would cram themselves into the iconic station wagon. Kids would occupy rear seats with an open back window, and there they would make faces at other cars driving behind. Road trips were long but way more affordable than a flight, and sometimes families could make a quick stop at a roadside restaurant like Shoney's and Waffle House to grab a bite before hitting the road again. There was no GPS or directional app, so if you got lost, you had to use a paper map or ask for directions. Whether it be an RV, a van, or a regular sedan, family road trips were always fun with memories that lasted a lifetime. If you were a teenager in the 1950s, malt shops may have been your go-to. They were typically hangout spots for teenagers and young adults, and they were depicted in movies like Grease and TV shows like Happy Days. They featured light meals and rich, creamy milkshakes, sundaes, ice cream sodas, and more, including the malted milkshake. It also served club sandwiches, grilled cheese, pie, hamburgers, and fries, and the decline of the malt shop was due to the soaring competition with major fast food brands. Nothing was more exciting for children than a trip down to the local store or candy shop to buy a candy worth a penny. These individually wrapped candies sold for a penny each and were always available in a large quantity. The colorful varieties and mouth-watering flavors kept kids coming back for more. They often included gumdrops, Tootsie Rolls, wax lips, and others, and were usually displayed in large show glasses and jars where kids could pick and choose whatever they preferred, often paying with a handful of pennies. The peak of penny candy's popularity was in the 50s and 60s. Kids would save for months to be able to splurge at the candy shop and leave with a small bag full of treasures. Although there are still inexpensive candies today, the days of penny treats are long gone. The first roller skates ever made were adjustable metal roller skates with keys. The shoe enhancements had straps that you wore over your regular shoes, which is different compared to the modern skates we have today. The old roller skates came with a key-like feature allowing you to adjust the size. You could turn the keys to extend the length of the sole or secure the metal toe clamps around your shoes to make them nice and firm. Needless to say, the skates had some practicality adjustments, and they began to decline in the 60s, giving room to better designs and the boot versions that arrived later. Which of these things do you remember the most? Let me know in the comments below, and also don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you never miss another great memory in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.